All right, here we go. Here we go. Friday edition of DC and the Sunshine Man, our Cofield and Company late night podcast. Willie Ramirez becoming a regular, looking all dapper upstairs. Look at those rafters, man. The girders upstairs at the Fortress, and Koken's in. I didn't see you guys last week, and I screwed you guys over. You got off to a late start because I was in La La Land as I was drafting a fantasy baseball league, so I apologize for that. I'm glad we're all here tonight. So what's up, Koken?
Just heading for a nice weekend. I'm on a pretty good winning streak right now, so would like to keep it going.
Nice. Willie.
What's happening? Wild one out here at the T-Mobile.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
So what happened, man? Goal explosion after they've had some some trouble scoring at times. What happened?
Yeah, they just, you know what? They came out with a lot of fire. They came out. They really punched it. I mean, you can look at it like where they came out with a lot of fire and a lot of punch, but at the same token, Arizona looked pretty dang bad. Rick Tocchet was not happy. Called a timeout after the second goal, just 4:41 in. You know, teams only get one timeout per game, so calls a timeout. And he even said in the post-game press conference, he said, you know, I did it to stop the momentum, stop the bleeding, do anything, and then just out of the timeout, Keegan Colasar scores a goal, and then the next thing you know, they're up 4-0. So they really took it to them early and came out in the second and go up 5-0. And you know what's funny is I was sitting here watching it, and I was like, man, it's getting really quiet in here, almost like the same kind of lull in energy from the crowd as if they were losing. And I thought the whole energy just kind of went out of the building because the game became boring. I said, wouldn't that be wild if Arizona just, and sure enough, they made a little bit of a game of it, 5-1. They come out in the third period, and the first three shots of the third period, they scored goals. Next thing you know, you look up and it's 5-3. So, Arizona made a push at the end, and Riley Smith said afterward, he said, that's, we kind of just took it for granted and went to sleep a little bit. We got to play all 60 minutes to close these things out. So, fortunately for the Golden Knights, they did, and they end up winning 7-4. Did you watch the game, Dave?
Not after it was 4-0, and it's like, I'm involved in two other games, so I flipped them on. So I really didn't see a whole lot of the game because I figured, well, it's pretty much over. And looks like the Golden Knights had some of the same attitude and got sloppy defensively in the third period.
Thank you, Mark. They did. They just it was they did. They it's like they just sort of fell asleep. They didn't they put the game to bed early in the second period, and they forgot what they were doing.
Teams do that in every sport. So every sport. It happens like 5 times. It happens like 5 times a night in the NBA, where teams have 20-point leads and all of a sudden they're gone. It happens in the NFL where teams just go into deep zone defenses and let the other team peck away. The only sport where it really doesn't happen is baseball because it's just a different configuration.
Yeah, it happened to the Grizzlies tonight in the NBA. You know who it didn't happen to was the Blues. The Blues, they just terrorized the Wild tonight.
They got dressed down by their general manager, and that's a little different than being dressed down by the coach because the GM signed the checks.
Yeah,
and I think the message got through. They had a pretty good game tonight.
Yeah, they routed Minnesota 9-1, and I think that was the franchise worst for the Wild. So, but I was trying to follow along a little bit with the because I had some interest in the Grizzlies-Knicks game. Did you happen to watch it? What happened there? It looks like they collapsed, and then Knicks took them to overtime and then won it.
I wouldn't know. I haven't watched an NBA game in 2 years.
Oh, okay. I know they choked. So
the day I stopped doing. It's less than that. The day I stopped doing the Las Vegas Sports Line, which was when everything shut down last March, I barely watched the NBA before that, but I had to watch it a little bit because I knew we were going to bring it up on the show. But since then, it's like, okay, don't have to watch this anymore. I'm just not a big fan of the league. I know it's great, tremendous athletes, and I'll probably watch some playoff stuff, but the regular season just doesn't interest me at all.
So, Willie, how did Leonard look late? Did he lose sharpness? Did his defense let him down in front of him?
A little bit, in terms of the rushes, they did pick up a power play goal. There was a breakaway goal where Keller just made them look silly. And I just think it was more or less Vegas's defense in front of them getting a little bit sloppy and allowing easy goals or easy shots, I should say. The breakaway, it's 1-on-1. Keller froze him. And they just they overall, they gave Arizona too many opportunities in front of Leonard. But they're shots that he could have stopped. It's not as if he was blocked or he didn't have good sights. I think it was just a collection of everything. And you have to remember, at one point they were outshot 22-4. There were 31 to whatever it was, 14. So Leonard didn't get a lot of work early in the game. So now all of a sudden, all this pressure is coming on. So that doesn't help, in terms of the team allowing Arizona to put pressure on him late. So he's starting to see all that action where he's kind of sitting there. Fleury said that in the past to us when we've asked him. He said he doesn't necessarily like when his team in front of him is dominating so much with the shots because he gets cold and he's sitting back there watching the game. He likes to have the consistent action over each period. So that way, if there is some sort of rush later in the game, he's already warmed up and ready. Leonard didn't really see that early on. I think Vegas had 13 of the first 14 shots on goal and outshot them, whatever it was, 22-4 at one point. So it was, Leonard was kind of bored at that end. So when he did see a lot of action, it's not surprising where it was like, hey, I got to start making goals or making stops. Excuse me.
Dave, gambling question. Someone says, do you play the puck line much?
No. Bad bet. Leave it alone. Don't do it. Too many one-goal games and overtimes in the NHL. You'll lose money laying a goal and a half.
Willie, you agree?
Yeah. It's a sucker play. You get caught up into it because you automatically think you're going to see a blowout, and more times than not, you will end up on the losing end of it. So, what I do see a lot of people doing is the reverse puck line, which I still haven't. I don't understand that much either. So you're just better off finding a winner, finding the value. And if you're going to play a favorite, I tend to look for something that's going to be $1.50 or less. I'm not going to try to lay a lot of juice. There's plenty of value up there. And you know what? There's no reason to force it. If you don't see something, there's a game every night. So,
well, my take is a little different because I had the I played a 2-team parlay tonight. I wanted Colorado. They didn't play a real good game, but they did win 2-0. But I wanted Colorado off a really bad game. Well, minus 330 didn't really interest me. But if I could find a companion piece that I liked, okay. And I did. I took the Sharks with them. So I got them plus 130. I'll take that. That's the extent of my parlays. They're two teams, and they're usually often two big favorites that I happen to like, or one big favorite and one smaller favorite where I can get a nice return. And I've played 6 of them so far in the NHL this season. I'm 5-1, so that's worked out. And it's only I don't force anything. It's only if I happen to have 2 games that I like, and the Sharks were a side I liked tonight, so it made sense to put them together. But tomorrow I'll be back to normal. I've got 1 game I like tomorrow, so that'll be it.
So you don't mind. So if it's a heavy favorite and you're going to play it in a parlay, you try to pair it with a plus to bring it down a little. Is that what you're saying?
I'm pairing it so I can make money on it.
Yeah.
And it's less risk. I'm laying 1 unit to win 130. The other way, if I happen to split, I lose a lot. So I don't want to do that.
All right. So what do you do in baseball with the run line? Same thing? Bad bet? You just stay away from it on the favorite?
Yeah. Well, you can make a case for runs line on the road because at least you don't have to sweat the bottom of the 9th if you're up a couple of runs. Or I hopefully understand what I meant to say there.
Right.
But generally speaking, no, I don't like runs lines. They look nice. Sometimes you find a team like last year's Dodgers. They were
right.
I mean, they were winning everything by more than 1 run. Excuse me. But today was a good example. A lot of Dodgers runs line bets out there today. 1-0 win.
Yep.
Lost your bet. I would have rather gone.
Dave, have you ever tracked late in the season when teams just completely, crap the bed and they're on their way to a 60 win season. Have you ever tracked it if it just gets awful and laying 1.5 is a good bet against them?
No,
It never is.
I'll just bet the game.
Yeah.
No,
Don't
if
be-
I
don't be
like the
greedy.
game, I'll just bet the game.
Right.
I don't have a problem if it's a $2 favorite and you made the line 260. Then why isn't it a good bet? It is a good bet.
Willie, take that mask off. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's people around him and he's not allowed to.
Yeah.
Right.
Settle down, Chuck.
Screw off, Chuck. He's got to keep
I'm
it on.
moving-
Those are the rules.
I'm moving furniture around at the top of T-Mobile, and
yeah?
I don't even know if I was supposed to bring this table over here. I wanted the background. I had to have it over here.
Ah, it looks awesome.
It's good.
Dude, by the
Adam-
way, you're a machine. You're a machine. You're going to stand for a whole podcast? Machine.
By the way, it looks like some
I've
of
been
the card-
sitting. I've been
looks like
sitting
some of
for 6 hours.
looks like some of the cardboard fans stuck around to watch you. Why are they still
What?
there?
What's that?
Why are there still cardboard fans?
Those aren't
We
those
got
aren't
real
cardboard.
fans. No, over your other shoulder, aren't they? Kind of looks like it.
No,
maybe
no. What you see, the red and gold over the chairs they're actually those are the. So when they figure out the pockets that they're going to sell,
Ah,
okay, of seats, that's the black seats. So you see the
Okay.
section like 4, 3, 2, 1, and they're socially distanced, and then the red and gold are just ribbons over the seats that are closed down, so in the
Ah.
color of the Golden Knights. But there's no cardboard cutouts. I don't think
Okay,
that they've never done the cardboard cutout. They just always had the red and gold covers, and then now, like I said, depending on how they sell those pockets of seats, either in groups of 4 or 3 or 6, if there's 3 in front, 3 in the back, and that's how they do it.
okay, good. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
recall seeing cardboard cutouts at the Golden Knights games.
No,
Good for
I
them.
don't think. I don't know. They didn't do that. They
Dave,
Good for
didn't
them.
do that bullshit.
Dave hates him.
I don't like them, and and thank goodness we don't have to put up with fake crowd noise anymore. That was worse.
That was. Let me
It
tell
was
you.
just awful.
They according to the PR people, I asked them. So the NHL, they had to approve every single arena's individual decibel. They had to go through it and hear it, so it compared to what the real. So obviously, like an arena like Florida couldn't play the same level that an arena like Vegas would, right? Because Florida's never matched that crowd,
Right.
So they had to approve that, and man,
Well, they should have just disapproved all of it.
it was deafening in here
Stupid.
with nobody in here, and it was almost it threw you off. It was silly before they let the crowd in.
And some
now
of the sound engineers in a few of the arenas, they don't know their ass from their elbow. Thank goodness they're gonna have fans back at San Jose. I think next week they'll get like 10%, something like that. Maybe they can stop it because the guy at San Jose might be the worst of all time. He doesn't even know when to use the. I mean, he just does it wrong all the time. I think
It's off,
he's got to
yeah.
be stoned or something.
There are some arenas. I'll notice that too. Where it's. I mean, obviously, I haven't been to any visiting ones, but when you're watching or listening or streaming, or especially the beginning of the season, and I'm watching Vegas Golden Knight road games, you can hear where it was off terribly.
You know what was great? Where they didn't use it is you could actually hear what was going on the ice.
Yeah,
It was pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And it was a different way of watching a game that you're not going to get again.
yeah.
it was
No,
pretty
that was
cool.
cool. That was cool here. You could hear some of that here, although they did the fan noise. But when there was no reason to play the noise or a groan or a cheer, you could hear all the way at the top of T-Mobile. Let me see if I can. So you can see some of the guys still working down there, right below those lights. Those white lights at the top. That's press row, and then so you could hear the action and the guys talking sometimes at the beginning of the season when there was no fans in here. You can hear them yelling at the refs or just yelling to one another. So yeah, that was kind of fun to be able to hear that.
It was. And all they needed to do was put up a language warning. because
Yeah.
you would pick up some of the
Swear word,
the
yeah.
profanity. Yeah, okay. So put a warning at the start of the broadcast. Some of the language you hear might be objectionable, and that would have been great with that, instead of yelling that we knew wasn't actually yelling.
As it is, the camera work on baselines in NBA games, and when there's no pandemic, you can hear some of those guys as it anyway. So it's not like they don't pick that up. Not all the time, but I've heard plenty of F-bombs accidentally dropped with baseline cameras in NBA games,
Sure.
sometimes in football games. So it's not like it's unusual. I mean, it would be a lot more, yes, but yeah.
It's
And
part of the game.
I'll tell you the other thing that you would have liked, Dave.
I mean, you hear it if you go to the game.
Yeah. No, I'll tell you what is the block shots, the number of block shots, and you hear it, the thud off their bodies.
Yeah.
That was intense. Yeah. Watching MLB.
Yeah. So Andrew says baseball, you can actually hear a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Can you? Can you hear the hecklers sometimes screaming?
Depends on the. I mean, it's like at Tampa. I don't know what happened to the guy, the beer guy. He's not there anymore, I guess.
Oh no.
Well, maybe he'll be back now that the things are opening up again. It's often dependent on the stadium.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can hear stuff. Sometimes you can't. I don't know. It's fun. If as long as it's real, I'm good with it. I just don't like fake stuff. Well, fake boobs, okay, but most fake stuff.
Dave, have you
So-
been out here in the first 4 seasons? Have you come out to a game?
I've been to one game.
Okay.
I had to have one experience at the game because I wanted to, get a vibe of what it's like. I'm not great for attending games. I don't, because I'm not a typical fan. I'm there to watch games. I want to watch the game.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't care about all the other stuff that's going on. So that's for fans. And I'm not knocking it, believe me. But I wish I had more of that in me. I did when I was a kid with the Red Sox. I mean, it's like, oh, but now, I mean, even if I was still living back there, I probably wouldn't be going to many games.
What about the Aviators? Same thing. You don't like minor league baseball?
Now, minor league baseball is a little different because it's.
You'd go to the 51s. You'd sit in
Yeah.
the press box at the 51s, especially after we did shows. You'd stick around for a little bit.
Yeah, it's different because the game is almost secondary there.
Yeah.
You're hanging around with your friends and stuff like that, and the game is like background. That's one of the cool things about minor league baseball. I thought the Wranglers were like that too. I actually enjoyed going to the Wranglers games because, all right, there's a little hockey going on, but it was mostly just hanging out with people, and the game was just in the background because nobody really cared about the game.
Yeah, I don't think you know enough people though to get into the press box or, get a decent seat. Oh, there's Jim. Okay, Jim's here.
I'm going to see.
And by the way,
Jimmy,
if you haven't been to the ballpark,
Jim will get you in.
boy, I mean, it is just, that's the nicest minor league park I've ever seen.
I'm going out there Tuesday. I'm going to go to that UNLV Arizona State game.
That's sold
time?
out, by the way.
Did it? Good.
Yep.
Yeah,
What time's the game at?
6 o'clock. I'm going to
All
get
right.
a press credential and go out there since I'm releasing that baseball. So that baseball package I got everything transcribed. But you know what's crazy, Steve? We talked about it the other day is I just kept getting phone call after phone call after phone call, more interviews. So it's really growing into this, especially the local piece. Yeah. So I'm looking for that tomorrow. I got 2 things on my agenda, and is to bust through that entire local story, because the story on Bryson Stott and the story on Jack Thomas Mold is such an easy write, because
Right.
they're both great stories. But the local one, I've had so much input and phone calls come in. So 2 big things tomorrow is I got the new lever for my weight belt, so I get to go do leg day for the first time in a long time. Very heavy.
What a
And-
different life. What a different.
and
David and I are
writing
like,
baseball.
what lever leg day? What are you talking about? Come on.
and writing all day about baseball. So I'm actually looking forward to tomorrow. So that story on Jack Thomas Wold, I can't wait to see the kid play Tuesday against Arizona State.
Willie, did you hit this last week at all with Dave? Your series?
No, I don't think we. I don't think we talked about it.
Well, I want you to, because I want Dave to hear this. I want you to talk about your local baseball piece that's coming up, because we just mentioned you have the Stott piece, you got the UNLV player piece, but you got to talk to Greg Maddux last week, dude. And
week.
when you I'm sorry, this week when you started talking about all the connections to baseball from the last 30 years, I was like, holy crap, man, there really are. There's so many people embedded in this community, and I figured anyone listening was gonna, like, at the end, I'm like, the people are gonna go gaga to hear all these references.
It's an amazing. It really is an amazing baseball town.
So as I've mentioned, every month on my website, wgramirez.com, I do a different theme, right? And this month's theme is the Boys of Summer. And there's always 3 stories. One is on a national level, one is a local level, and then one is personal, somewhere that I'm in, can just like writing a column. So this month is Bryson Stott, his first full spring training with the Phillies. The localized story is Jack Thomas Wold from UNLV. And then the local story is just the evolution of baseball in this town. And what I found is just I talked to Jimmy Gemma. He gave me some great quotes. Don Logan, because Jimmy Gemma is a native. Don Logan, obviously. Greg Maddux. Then I spoke to some local coaches that, either went to school here or and they're still coaching here. Went to talked to Nick Garitano, the coach for CSN. He played football. He played everything for Chaparral, then played football for UNLV. Now he's the coach at CSN. He followed Roger Fairless at Green Valley. I talked to Sam Thomas, who's the coach at Las Vegas High School. He played at Valley, graduated in 1983, played for Roger Fairless. He's been a longtime coach out of Vegas High School. Great story about Sam Thomas. His parents, Charlie and Donna Thomas, were one of the original season ticket holders at Cashman Field for the very first Las Vegas Stars franchise. When they moved to, and Jimmy, if you're still in here, comment on this. When they moved to the ballpark, I want to say there were 12, there's a low number, original season ticket holders from the first season of the Stars that the Aviators and Donnie Logan and the organization allowed them to choose their seats. And I think they got the first set to season tickets.
How cool
There's
is
a
that?
story there. Very cool. And they got to go over, if they wanted season tickets at the ballpark, they continue to have them, and they got to pick their seats. Fantastic story. So anyway, Charlie and Donna Thomas, Sam's parents, they're part of that. I mean, they're, longtime fans. But Sam, I talked to him, and just a number of different people just chiming in, giving me a quote here and there about like I said, the evolution of baseball. I got a comment from Joe Raynone, who's a partner over at Tim Soder Physical Therapy, where all the Major League Baseball players that live here during the offseason, they basically go through there to keep their bodies right. And how that has been a big change from way back in the day when there was only one person here, Keith Clevin, right? And then all the physical therapists have basically gone through Clevin's office and then opened their own place. But now you have all these places where people can train during the off season to keep their bodies fresh. So I spoke to him a little bit about that.
When Keith's at Keith's place, the joke was the best place to get autographs in the city of Las Vegas.
Well, and Keith
because
was
everybody was there.
Yeah, and Keith was Tiger's personal guy, right? He always would fly wherever Tiger wanted him to go. So Jimmy, I saw your comment. You said that's still a good amount that came over, but I'm talking from the very first season of the Stars in '83. Isn't there just like a handful or a couple or a dozen from the very first season of Stars that are still season ticket holders that were invited to come to the ballpark? I know that there's a ton of season ticket holders that carried over, but I thought that there was a specific number. Anyway, just answering Jim's comment. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to jumping into head first tomorrow is writing that local piece. And one thing that I have to write in there is a disclaimer that says I am not going to be able to name everybody. There is just, I'm going to accidentally leave somebody out. I've actually enlisted a couple of people I can trust to send my story to, that they can go through, and I'm going to do like a book, like an acknowledgement, or you'd read the book, the acknowledgement, and I'm just going to list as many names as I can come up with, because it's going to be so hard to come up with, Mike Martin from LVBA. The other thing I found interesting was talking to different people that had no clue that I talked to. They all had the same sorts of things, like Greg Maddux, Joe Reno, Nick Garitano, on 3 different interviews, 3 different days, and they all happened to say that it's not like when going to LVBA and Mike Martin and they took the time to teach fundamentals, which is kind of lost among youth baseball now. Now everybody's training for a one showcase and going out and taking batting practice to go hit the furthest home run, or show how that they can, throw across their body and show a power arm from the shortstop position. But going out and having that competitive edge and showing that you could hit against a 93-mile-per-hour fastball, it's sort of a lost art is fundamentals. And but they all brought up specifics, and the common denominator were specific things from the different guys, and it was a lot of the guys that grew up in this town and remember those different areas. LVBA, the little leagues, when there was 10 high schools and maybe 8 or 9 little leagues. The big thing back then was where you were going to play for Paradise Valley American or Paradise Valley National. And you played at Sunset Park or Paradise Park, which is off East Tropicana. Now, I wouldn't even go near Paradise Park in the dark. So, anyway, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be a fun story. It's gonna be a fun piece. So, Steve, I appreciate you letting me publish. All week we've been promoting it, so I got to get this thing done.
I wanted to. Well, I didn't know if you were going to get to it, but I just wanted to bring it up. What a week for UNLV basketball!
Yeah.
I mean, how good is this? Got 4 Big 12 transfers.
Yeah.
Does anybody think this isn't going to work pretty well? He's too young. Stepping stone. Blah blah blah. Kidding? This is the best thing that's happened to UNLV hoops in a long time. Well, basically since Lon was here. 4 guys transferred out of the Big 12 to UNLV. This team's going to get better right away.
Yeah.
Willie, what's your take?
No, I agree. Every time something came up about the transfer portal and then the Bryce news and this, I mean, we kind of knew Bryce was headed out, but you look up and it's like, this kid's bringing in, Power 5 guys. These are no rinky-dink transfers that are coming in, or guys that, aren't carrying some weight and bringing in some experience and playing against, having some good experience against top competition. So they're going to come in immediates. And, no matter if you say what you want about Kruger and maybe how young he is, but let's not forget Lon's going to be there as in some advisor type role. They're going to build that chemistry, and he already knows how to put the chemistry together because of his pedigree. So it's going to be, I got a little excited when I think it was Tyler had, the first time I saw something pop up on my timeline. I'm sure it was all over the place, but I just happened to see his tweet, and I saw like 4th Big 12 transfer. I said, wow, he's going to put some stuff together, and he's got plenty of time, right? He's got, in terms of the fact how quick she made that hire. So to build that chemistry immediately, that's going to be fun to see.
Well, let me comment first on how they're building it. Because one, they are being patient. I think they're grabbing some building blocks out of the Big 12 that they know. And there's a ton of players still in. I mean, there's over 1,000 players in, and more players keep going in. So I think they're trying to be very selective. I think you will see some guys who are added to the mix who aren't necessarily from Power 5, but could be from lower levels who have been impact players, bigger scorers. But you can see Kevin has experience, working with his father in the Big 12. But this Carlin Hartman that they hired was on Oklahoma's bench for the majority of Lon's time there, and he's a big Texas recruiter. So you see the guys are getting, the guy they got today, Donovan Williams, Missouri City, Texas. Ham was playing at Texas along with Williams. Like, they know the Big 12. So at Oklahoma, they were already recruiting these guys. I saw today that they had offered a 4-star player in Beaumont, Texas. He's a 2022. So Texas is going to be a big focal point of their recruiting. I'm guessing they're going to get at least one player from Lamar, and Lamar probably has 3 impact transfers. Brandon Chappelle is the other assistant who was brought on. Buckley's going to stay around. So they're going to concentrate a lot on Texas. I think Buckley's going to handle the Midwest, and we'll see what happens with California and other regions, and obviously with Vegas. Deshaun Henry's still here. He's the director of basketball ops. Willie, you know him. He's a guy who's connected to all the high schools, and he's the one who's going to, I think he's staying. Nick Blake is going to stay around because, Deshaun is one of the guys instrumental in getting him in. So that's kind of where they're going in terms of building. But I do find it interesting, and I don't know what it says about Otzelberger, but basically, from what I hear, they met with everyone on the roster, and outside of Bryce, everyone else, they were like, if you want to go, that might be the best move. So Bryce, they wanted back, right?
Well, sure. He's a hell of a player.
Now, I'm reading Ricky. Ricky's a follower of UNLV. I don't think this is fair. He says, this sounds like sour grapes. Bummer losing a guy with no right hand, won't play D, scored majority of points when game was decided. Come on, Ricky.
No, he's a good player.
Yeah, he's a good player. He got better going to his right. Like, I don't love, his way to get to the right oftentimes is behind the back. But he's so good at going to his left. Outside of Marco Anthony of Utah State, when Bryce had an injured ankle, like the last whatever games now, 50 games, the guy was virtually unstoppable, and they weren't all junk points. Come on. Some of the stuff he did last year, he carried them in games. He had great games. Let's not – I know people might be mad at Bryce Hamilton, but I'm not. Yeah, you can't blame him. In a way, I think he's got to go to a Power 5 school and try to win, and then enjoy that, whatever it is, his last year or 2 years in a Power 5 at a program that's virtually guaranteed to go to the NCAA tournament. Am I wrong?
No, I would have been shocked if he stayed. We pretty much assumed, well, he's going to be gone. Now, he was going to be gone regardless of who the coach was.
And how much can you really blame his play? At some point you're gonna be reacting to the team that you're playing for and the way that the season's going and the way the games are going. There's no telling how he's going to play in a better situation with better chemistry, like we may see with this squad coming up. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's hard to gauge and judge this kid.
This was call it straight. They were a dead team this year. They're a bad team.
Yeah.
Okay. They underachieved. I'm not saying, TJ can't coach, because I think he's a good coach, but it wasn't working here. And we got lucky. He left because if he stays, he's still here. And I think we're kind of in the same boat next year as we are this year. But he got this job at Iowa State, and that enabled the door to open for Kevin Kruger. Program's in better shape now than it was a month ago or whenever it was that TJ was still here. It just is.
Ricky, reach out to me when he decides. Reach out to me, and I'll make you a bet on this one.
Oh no, he's going to play.
That he'll go to a Power 5 and sit on the bench like Hardy. Let's you just set the terms like Hardy. So
I want in on this too.
We will do scoring average and minutes per game. Bryce Hamilton next year at a Power 5 versus what Hardy did, and I'll give you a lean on the bet. And the other reason I think that Bryce has to go, if he does want to listen, he can play professional basketball now somewhere, not the NBA. He can make money somewhere in the world playing basketball. But if he wants to get to a better level and eventually make the NBA or a high level of professional basketball, he's got to go cut his teeth with better players in practice. And UNLV may have a good team next year, but they may also be like a 14 to 17 win team. He's got to go and be around other great players, and it's a good thing if he's the third or fourth player. It's also, not to get on Ricky repeatedly, it's also very short-sighted to look at what Amari Hardy did and go, that was a disaster. If Amari wants to play professional basketball, getting to practice against the level of talent on the Oregon team is going to make him a better pro, and it's going to happen in more rapid fashion. Everything is not about minutes and points per game. I actually admire what Hardy did because here he was a volume shooter shooting around 40%. And yeah, by the end of the year, he actually got beaten out for the major minutes by Will Richardson, who got healthy. But the fact that Hardy was willing to go somewhere, try to win, play point guard, average 4 points a game, I think you give him a pat on the back for that. Not everyone's willing to do that. So I have no bitterness towards Bryce, and I also think the handwriting was on the wall that he was going to move because there was a little chatter during the season that I said this on the air today that some of the coaches were a little frustrated with Bryce in the middle of the year because Bryce, I think, saw the handwriting on the wall that the team was not going to be good. He's not going to jack up his ankle further. So I think one of the Reno games, they were hoping that he could play. He didn't, and I also believe that folks back in California who have been around him, I'm not saying his family, but other folks, who he came up with in terms of AAU circuit, I think they were talking to him in the middle of the season, and they said, listen, it's probably, you're probably going to wind up leaving. Don't F yourself up. Don't, and listen, UNLV fans don't want to hear that. They want to see their players busting their ass.
The fact
going
is,
all that, but let's be realistic.
the fact is the season was over before it started. The very first game, they get blown out by a Big Sky team at home. Montana State. Okay, Montana State was a reasonably good Big Sky team, but it's still a Big Sky team. And they got blown off the court in that game. They were never in the game. They gave up like 50 points the first half, if I recall. And then they had they were overmatched in games in the tournament, and that was it. Season was over. Yeah. I never had any optimism for this team. Basically, after the first game.
Well, they needed.
This team's not very good.
They were going to need. First of all, you bring in a JUCO, Del Cadia. He's got to be good. Like he's got to be like a 8.5 rebound guy and be able to play 22 minutes and be an impact guy. Nick Blake had to avoid all growing pains and be an impact player. Tillis had to be a little bit better. Grill, you'd expect him to be at another level after being around for a couple of years. He just wasn't. And then Coleman going down killed him because they don't have a true point guard. Yep. And honestly, Jenkins with the step up, he was a little overwhelmed at times in terms of consistency in the Mountain West Conference. And I'll say this about Bryce because I what I'm seeing Ricky do here is what a lot of people did to about 5 or 6 guys on the Marvin Menzies roster. And I told you at the time, you're wrong. You're wrong, right? That it was no big deal to lose all those guys. Now, Tomboy flamed out. We'll see where he pops up. But JTT is going to be an all Big 12 defensive player, and he's got a national title now in his back pocket.
Yeah.
Shakur went to Oregon. They had a very good season. He played a big role for them. They had good players on that team. So I know there's a bitterness when guys leave, and it's like, Bryce Hamilton did a lot the last couple of years and was not surrounded by great players. And I'm telling you, if Bryce opens things up and he's willing to go anywhere, there are 30 Power 5 schools that would easily have Bryce Hamilton on their team. And I think he could play anywhere in the country. Hey, you know what? If he wants to, play better defense, be required to play better defense, he'd be a hell of a player in the Big Ten. I would love to see him crashing towards the basket where they don't call a goddamn charge on every effing freaking drive, right? Where the physicality is more accepted. So I know this. At my school at Rutgers, I take him on the team. Bring in a guy who scores 18 points a game, comes in, he's a reliable scorer at 12 points a game. Every once in a while, blows up for 25. Easily would take him.
Yeah, they could use a shooter.
Give me a break.
He can shoot the basketball.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you, I have no clue what this team needs, who's open for it. But I'm going to tell you, where a kid like that, a program like this, and a coach, I could see him being coached well by a guy like Shaka Smart in a basketball-only town like Marquette.
Oh, yep. Or that, you know what? If he goes somewhere he doesn't want to. The Big Ten, they play at times plotting basketball. Iowa doesn't. But
thanks, Casey.
Yeah, if he landed at Marquette, and he's in Shaka Smart's system for a year or two,
yeah,
I bet you he's productive there. So I'm not mad, and I see now Ricky's like, whatever. If you don't want to be here, goodbye. All right, whatever. I think he put his time in. I think he did a good job.
And you know what? everybody's going to be better for everything that's going on. Like we said, I mean, because the UNLV program is already, like you said, Dave, it's already in better shape than it was a month ago.
They're already a better team than they were this past season. That
We'll
doesn't
see.
mean- that
I
doesn't
think
mean they're
I
gonna
think
win
they
the
need.
Mountain West,
I think they need more impact players. But I get what they're
Well,
building. They're gonna have more athleticism, more length on the front line. It looks like they're gonna have more depth at point guard. I think they're still gonna bring in another point guard. And
and here's something else they'll have, which they
Yeah.
just didn't have this year. They're gonna have enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
this team had this year's team.
well, whose fault was that?
Oh, a guy on the bench. It
It's
didn't
always-
work. Look,
I'll tell you what, Dave.
I think he's a very talented coach. But it didn't work here. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's a bad fit.
I think the vibe I got at times is that TJ is wound so tightly, that all this stuff about pace and playing fast. I think when someone is wound that tightly, like Dave Rice got that way at the end, and then not that Dave's like a taskmaster, but Dave Rice got super tight, and then all of a sudden it's like the pace goes down. I mean, the pace of play was like in the 330s when you're supposed to be, a 1 in 4 out, fast-paced team, get a quality shot in the first 10 seconds of the shot clock. But if everything is going to be micromanaged, it's like at a point you're like, this is not fun.
And the opposite, you had the guy who was the polar opposite in the Mountain West on today, Nico Medved. That team had a good time. I mean, that team played they had fun.
Those guards,
They had fun. And they were fun to watch, by the way.
yeah. I mean, you know what? Roddy may hit a 3 here and there. He may clang the next 4, but he goes inside, beats the piss out of people. The 2 guards are playing 1,000 miles an hour. That's a fun basketball style.
Yep. Yeah,
And you know what?
The Mountain West as a whole was a pretty entertaining league.
It's a confident basketball style too. Like you never watch Nico Medved where he's like, he's looking at the clock, it's like ready to call a timeout at every freaking run. Like, dial it down. Let's have some fun.
I'll tell you, what one of my favorite movie lines is, and it can apply to within the team or with the coach. And it's in Remember the Titans, when Julius and Gary are standing there at practice and they say, all right, let's get it out. Let's get the particulars out of the way, blah, blah, blah. And Julius says, you know what? You're never going to get to know me. And they go back and forth, and Gary says, man, see, that's just the wrong attitude. And he says, yeah, attitude, captain. And it always starts at the top. And like you said, toward the end of everybody's tenure, things fizzle. And there's lack of energy, and there's lack of a good attitude at the top. It's not going to work anywhere underneath. And I think with Kevin Kruger bringing the enthusiasm that he's bringing, and his father being there in the background to assist with whatever Kevin asked, and he's bringing these guys in from the Big 12. He knows their style. He's familiar with what they've done already. Obviously, Lon does. The attitude is already starting great during the offseason, and it's just gonna feed into the regular season. And you're gonna see a lot of enthusiasm right from jump. And when they do hit a speed bump, they'll correct it, and they'll have the right attitude and the right motivation, the right leadership to overcome it during this first season, regardless of what the record ends up being. Nobody's saying they're going to go to the dance in the first season, but you're going to see positive play and positive attitudes, and you're going to see progression. That's what I think.
Hey, Willie, you and I talked about some of the kids coming back home, like the potential of Jalen Hill, who Kevin Kruger recruited to Oklahoma for Lon Kruger. So we'll see what happens with that. Clark High School guy. We talked about Strother, right? So I thought it was disappointing by few that as the season went along, and especially in the biggest spots, that Strother didn't play, and few got down to like 6.5 player rotation, which I think hurt him in the championship game. You're confident Strother's bought in. His family is bought in. They understand the system. It takes a while to play at Gonzaga. What if Few, and frankly, Mark Few should do this. What if Few looks at his roster and he's like, I just lost to a bigger, stronger team that was more athletic on the wing and played better defense. What happens if, because he did it late this year, he brought in Nemhart, right? What happens if Mark Few goes out and gets 2 juniors or, 1-year guys to play on the wing who are 6'8", 6'4" to 6'8"? Julian and his family like, wait, what's going on here? Or
Yeah.
we're getting recruited over. So I
Yeah.
mean, that would be my dream scenario. If you're a Rebels fan, to get one or both of those guys to come back home to play 2 or 3 years here would be unbelievable. Jalen Hill and Strother. I don't know if they can get either, but I'm just wondering, like, things change quickly with kids when they start looking at the roster and like, hey, wait, I was told something. Now it just changed.
I would be interested to see, Jalen Hill's mindset, where that's at. And as far as Julian is concerned, as of right now, yeah. And I've actually, since we talked the other day on the radio, Lee's back home, and he actually sent me the schedule. He just had, because he did a graphic he actually built a graphic for me for the baseball series on my website, because Julian's dad does graphic artist work. So, and we were talking, he said, hey, just an update here, Julian's schedule. He's going to be coming home to finish up his schooling. He gets to finish at home, since it's all online anyway, which they're happy about. And he's going to just kind of rest his body for a little bit and then get back into the gym to do some working out. And then I think he's doing some off-season. He's going to be doing some off-season court work, possibly pre-draft with Suggs from Gonzaga. And as of right now, everything is on pace to where he is going to step into that role like we talked about with Kispert gone. Now, yes, obviously, if you were to just look back at his roster and say, this is what happened, breaks it down, he decides to go out and recruit somebody or two, and it steps on Julian's toes, there's no doubt in my mind that Lee would be highly disappointed. They would have to reassess and think about what they would want to do. Would they make that immediate decision for the sophomore year? I doubt it. But if he gets his toes stepped on, I'm not going to say for a second straight year, because this first year it was understood what his role would be as a freshman behind Kispert. But that second year, especially after what I told you, that Few pulled Lee aside immediately after the game, 20, 30 minutes after the game, went to every parent talk, but he pulled Lee aside and he said, Julian has earned his time. He was patient, and it's his time next season. Kispert's gone, and I'm going to work with him, and so on and so forth. And we expect big things, and we have big hopes for him. So all that. So after that speech, and I also know that during his freshman year, that Few spent the entire, each week making calls to the parents those for, during non-conference play as things started heating up and they were playing every other day or every 2-3 days, whatever conference he's. So the amount of commitment that he's made in terms of making phone calls and talking to the parents, and then the talk that he had with Lee, as of right now, they have completely bought in. But you nailed it. Yes, obviously. That's sort of a obvious question, is if he were to have his toes stepped on and they bring in other recruits and all of a sudden he gets put to the back burner for a second straight year, the fact that he's a top 100 kid and he was brought in as a top recruit, I could see him. And we talked about this. I would think that the first place he's going to look is back here, because they were close with Kevin Kruger. They tried to keep him here before he committed to Gonzaga. So they know Lon. So yeah, that would be a heavy recruit. They'd be a big transfer, and I would love to see him come home, obviously for selfish reasons. But as of right now, they're completely bought into Gonzaga.
By the way, Ricky, good call on Bryce sucks. Texas Tech, Kentucky, USC, Oregon, Texas, New Mexico, UConn, Illinois, Florida State have already reached out to Bryce Hamilton. Good stuff.
All right, guys, I got to shut it down. I appreciate you having me on, but they're security working. So before they throw me over the top, so I appreciate you having me on. And
you're awesome, dude. We appreciate you doing it.
I'll see you guys next week. Dave, kill them this weekend, would you?
All
right, Willie. That's funny. Sorry, Dave. I had to post that up there with the Bryce Hamilton. Who wants Bryce? Like, give me a break. I'm telling you.
I know you. I didn't have the list of schools, but he's a good player.
All right, Ricky, you name it. 15 minutes a game. I will bet you any amount. All right. I think you're setting the bar too low, dude. And you're literally saying that you, Ricky, know more basketball than Bill Self, Andy Enfield, Dana Altman, Danny Hurley, Coach Brad, Mark Adams at Texas Tech, Leonard Hamilton. Come on, bro. Come on. Right. And AJ says it. I mean, when you're getting interest like that, I mean, after being here 3 years, I want to go to the tournament. I want to get better. I want to practice against better players. So, well, by the way, wouldn't that be a coup if he actually did? If Richard Pitino got him to go to New Mexico and he stayed in the conference,
He's the best player on the team.
you know, I don't be. I mean, I'd be a little surprised, but you know, I would think San Diego.
No, I
State,
think he's
I would
going.
think San Diego State would make a call on him.
Yeah, I think he's not going to be in the Mountain West.
No, he's going.
He's going to a
he's
big
going-
school.
He's going to a Power 5, and you're gonna see him land at a top 30 program, and good for him. Yeah, good for him. Couple things on baseball, Dave. First of all, I noticed that when the Dodgers needed to go to the bullpen, they didn't turn to Kenley Jansen. They went to Corey Knebel. Is this going to be an effort all year to kind of go bullpen by committee and make sure that
No,
Kenley Jansen is ready to go in the playoffs?
I don't. I think they're going to try not to use Jensen back to back.
Right.
And Corey Knebel, now that he's healthy again, this guy was a really good pitcher a few years ago.
Right.
Had a bunch of injury issues, but Corey Knebel can pitch. And look, I don't think it's outlandish to suggest he could become the closer on that team. Jensen's not what he used to be. I mean, that cutter's it's still a great cutter, but it doesn't have the velocity it used to have, and he's more hittable. And Corey Knebel was on the verge of becoming one of the best relievers in baseball till he got hurt. And now it kind of looks like I didn't see what his velo was today. I wasn't watching the game, but I'm going to check to see, because if he's back where he used to be,
Right.
he's actually going to be the best closer on that team.
All right.
You know, look, at some point, things just change. We're seeing it change in the look. I know it's the farewell tour for Albert Pujols. He's going to be making the farewells mostly from the dugout. Walsh is the first baseman now, and Albert will probably get starts against lefties and an occasional DH, but I don't think he's going to have more than 250 at bats this year. The Angels are trying to win, and there's no room for sentimentality if you're trying to win. I mean, it's not like he's not Nelson Cruz, who for some ridiculous reason is getting better as he gets older. I mean, the guy's he's punching his ticket to Cooperstown with this tremendous surge late in his career. But most guys go the other way, and Albert's a reserve now, and so is Miguel Cabrera.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad to watch him, because the bat speed just isn't there anymore. And he's one of the greatest hitters I've ever seen. And if he hits 230 this year, I'll be doing well. He's just done.
It really
They were
should.
talking about They were talking about the milestones, the 2 milestones.
Yeah.
That are within range for Miggy, and one of them is he needs 13 homers, and he needs 134 hits for 3,000. It's like, he's not getting those. He's not going to get 134 hits. So, and I think it's his last year too. But he's still going to the Hall of Fame, or at least he belongs to the Hall of Fame.
How old is he? Is he 37? Is he that old yet?
He's got to be. And Albert, of course, is well past that.
Yeah. Cabrera is going to be 38 in about 9 days.
Okay.
God damn, time flies, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah, I remember him being a phenom and freaking 20 years old, and in the postseason early in his career, and he's already freaking 19 years into his career.
How old is Bryce now? Somebody mentioned Bryce here. What is he? Well, he's got to be 28 or so?
He's talking about Bryce Hamilton, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he was talking about Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
But time flies.
It does. Right? You did you ever have Pujols in fantasy?
Yeah, I had him. I had him in one league. I don't remember which league it was.
I actually, he was his first year was a weird deal. He kind of came out of nowhere and made the roster.
Yeah.
And I took a shot at him, and
boy.
it's like the luckiest guy. The 2 luckiest guys I ever got, because I always play auction leagues, where I was like, this Pujols guy must be good. And of course, I'm sure at the time he was 22. I'm sure he was 29. But he came in and was he was awesome. from the get go. And the other guy, minor league draft, I was like, this catcher here, and he's got pretty good pop. I was like, I'm going to take a flyer on this Piazza guy. Like I'm on the minor league draft. I was like,
best I ever did was at the end of in the reserve draft in my American League auction league. I took Mike Trout.
Really? That's a good one.
$5.
Yeah.
As an ex-player, and
awesome.
I constantly was renewing his a 3-year contract, but I kept on renewing it and extending it for more money. But I eventually got he was up like $50, and he won me like 3 titles.
And
wow. I will tell you that this year, in both my leagues, I drafted Jack Leiter.
Oh, you did?
Yep. So I'm getting him, whichever league. If the Pirates draft him first, I've got him in my National League, and if the Pirates decide to go with Kumar, then I'll have him in the American League, because Leiter's going to be one of the first 2 guys picked. So
I'm not in any leagues where you can draft them before they're part of an organization.
See, you can draft anybody in the reserve draft.
Jesus Christ, that'd be awesome.
Leagues. If you
15-year-old.
Yep. Well, you could if you wanted to.
Yeah. Were you in a league? Were you in a league when Bryce Bryce Harper was known, and you could draft him when he was like 17?
Yeah, he had already been. Somebody else had drafted him.
That's crazy. That's funny.
I mean, because everybody knew about Bryce.
Yeah.
Trout, not as many people knew about. I mean, he was drafted 25th.
Yeah, I mean it's weird, but
worked out pretty well.
South Jersey guy, you don't get to play baseball all the time, so kind of hidden in Vineland, New Jersey.
The interesting thing is the guy who was drafted directly ahead of him by the same team. The Angels drafted him. Was opposite him tonight. Randall Grichuk was playing center field.
Right.
Center field for the Dunedin Blue Jays.
Yeah. I mean, do you draft Tatis Jr.'s first kid?
Yeah, he might be injury prone.
We're not going to know it. We're not going to know at conception, Cam, but once he's born, we're good.
Well, but they do take up a roster spot. There is a downside to it.
Yeah. And I always kind of cheat myself on the minor league stuff now, because I generally will only draft older guys and guys I think who can make an impact potentially that year. So probably should just look at the rankings and draft the best guys and just hold on to them for 2 and 3 years if you need to. I have Kimbrel in a league, and I mean, so far he's looked good. I mean, is this going to continue the whole year?
If his velocity stays on point, why not? He looked at today. Like a 2-inning save today.
Yeah, that's the other thing. They have a lot of confidence in him. He's out there for more than 1 inning.
Well, he certainly looks better than he did last year, because he, wasn't good last year.
Well, he wasn't he wasn't very good in spring.
Nope. But he's got some confidence now.
Yeah,
that'll help. But whether he can do it over the course of a full season, that remains to be seen. Not getting any younger.
Someone has a comment about Ohtani. I think Ohtani becomes MVP if he can pitch and hit well consistently. Do you think it's worth pitching him? I believe if he plays every day, keep him healthy, he's a 35 home run guy. Why not just every day?
I said that last week or 2 weeks ago. I said I understand he can throw 100 miles an hour. He keeps getting blisters. He was done after 4 innings last start. Done. You're not going to make him a reliever. No. I want him out. I want him in the lineup for 150 games. Now, if they're going to get him in the lineup for 150 games anyway, okay. See what you get out of him as a pitcher. But and he can do either, but it's tough to do both. And I just wonder if that'll wear him down as the season goes along. I don't want him wearing down physically, because that can take away from his offense. And right now, having him, he's getting good pitches to hitting in front of Trout, and he still gets fooled by off-speed stuff at times. But Jesus, when he connects, holy crap. That ball's going to the moon.
From the room, any other baseball questions? Because I got a few more for Dave. Dave, do you know what's going on with Aaron Judge? What is this?
I don't know. This guy can't stay healthy.
Yeah, but right now there's questions like, is there something seriously wrong with him and are trying to hide it?
I don't know.
Did you hear
Weird.
Boone? Did you hear Boone talk about it today?
No, I did not.
Here, let me see if I can punch this up.
I
Boone
was
is
watching
asked,
the game too.
yeah, Boone was asked a question by one of the local veteran reporters. It'll come up here in a second.
Oh, I know why I wouldn't have heard it. I
Yeah.
had the game on while I was doing my FCS handicapping.
We asked you all these judge questions because of his injury history and so on, so you can understand how we can be a little confused when we don't have. Would you consider him right now injured?
He is just pausing now.
Dang, Marley. I mean, that's a good question. I don't know how to answer that because,
Okay, that's fair.
and if I answer yes or no, it's going to be conflated a lot of different ways. So I don't have him in the lineup today. I feel like he could probably play today. So I don't know. Well, I just more evaluation in 24 hours. It's a good question, but I'm not sure how to answer it.
I like Boone because I don't know what a lot of other people, they would have just shut it down immediately. That was a true moment of honesty.
Can you imagine that being asked to Bill Belichick?
Oh, yep.
So he doesn't know, so we don't know. Why speculate? We should find out something soon enough.
We should.
They don't look that awesome right now.
Yeah, how come?
I think the pitching, for one, might be a little bit overrated. I mean, Cole's certainly amazing.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to miss Tanaka to some extent. Corey Kluber's throwing the ball 90. Okay. He's not the Corey Kluber
Can he
he
do
used
it?
to be.
Can he change his game enough to where he doesn't have to have it?
I don't know. It sure didn't look like it today. I mean, they teed off on him.
Yeah.
It's when you go from being a power pitcher to one who has to be Zach Greinke and finesse your way around the strike zone. It's not easy. Greinke's a professor. He can do anything. I mean,
I was gonna ask you earlier about Kenley Jansen. It's like, hey, can he become a Trevor Hoffman? Well, Trevor Hoffman was ridiculous. That the fact that he adjusted from throwing 98 to being an 87 mile per hour fastball guy and still dominating for another 10 years. Or like, well, let's go old school with starters, like a Frank Tanana, who could throw hard at the beginning of his career, and then by the end it was just pus, but it worked.
Well, but never like it did when it was early in his career, because
Right.
Tanana before he got hurt looked like a Hall of Fame pitcher.
Yeah.
And at the end, he managed to survive for a lot of years, but he was never a great pitcher again.
Right.
And I kind of look at Kluber that way. I think we've seen the best we're ever going to see out of Corey Kluber, and he was great. But he's not the same at 90. So I think there's issues there. I like the bullpen. Chad Green's really good. Chapman will be fine, obviously. But getting to the bullpen might not be so easy. I was one, and a lot of people scoffed at Tanaka, let him, go back to Japan. They're going to miss him. That guy, I mean, was he a Cy Young pitcher? No. But middle of the rotation, pretty good. And you need middle of the rotation guys. Garrett Cole can't pitch 160 games.
No. What do you think of Musgrove tonight?
Oh, boy.
I cannot believe I know there are certain teams out there that have never had a no-hitter, and I completely forgot that they never had a no-hitter. That's amazing with the history of the pitching in the Padres franchise.
And the fact that they played for all those years in a ballpark that, it's a little configured a little differently now, but that was a great pitcher's ballpark at night because you basically needed a rocket launcher to get it out of there. It just shows you the amount of luck that's necessary to pitch a no-hitter. This was almost a perfect game. I guess he hit Joey Gallo with a pitch, and that was it, right?
Las Vegas hero Joey Gallo breaking up the perfect game.
Musgrove, on the Wager Talk baseball show that I do, we were talking about Musgrove this morning, and the guy's been a tease because you can see the stuff is there, but the consistency hasn't been there. But I was mentioning this morning, it's like, geez, he's on a staff with some good pitchers now, new coach. You wonder if maybe he's going to put it together this year because he's got a pretty high ceiling. And Well, so far so good. I mean, I certainly wasn't expecting this, but that was a great performance tonight. Hey, he completely dominated Texas. And Texas can't pitch much, but they've got a few decent hitters, and he made him look sick tonight. That's a big boost for the Padres, who kind of need one this week. This has not been a great week for the San Diego Padres with the Tatis stuff, and if he needs surgery, that's going to be a big hit.
It's kind of scary watching the way he did it too.
Yeah, I know.
As a player, when you swing hard,
Yep.
How do you come back mentally from freaking? Then what do? You cut down your follow through? How do you do it?
I don't know. Must have hurt like hell too.
He was down in a heap.
Yeah. Well, I just hope he doesn't need surgery. I hope they can rehab it.
Yeah.
Because I do want the Padres to do well. I want an exciting Dodgers Padres race because it's good it's good as a baseball fan. Forget the betting. Just as a fan of the game, that'd be fun to watch. I want to see those two teams really battling it out for the division title because, let's face it, the division title means a lot. You don't have to go through that elimination stuff. And it would just be a great pennant race. But if he's not there, if he's down for 3 months or whatever, it's hard to see. I mean, the Padres are good, but it's hard to see them being able to keep pace with the Dodgers.
What's the tell us about the Wager Talk baseball show?
It's 5 days a week. I'm not on every day, but usually 3 days a week, and we preview 3 or 4 games and from a betting standpoint, and talk baseball. It's about a half an hour show.
Who else is on it?
Varies. Myself, Steve Merrill, Brian. I'm forgetting the whole roster. There's like 6 guys. We rotated them in and out.
What's the best place to get it?
Wager Talk TV, YouTube. We've got like 70,000 subscribers now.
Sweet.
So there's a variety of places you can get it. But if you follow me on Twitter,
Right.
I'll retweet when I'm on it, and I'll usually retweet Wager. If you follow Wager Talk on Twitter, they'll always post it. And if you go to Wager Talk, I think they have something where you can get alerts sent when there's a live show on, because they have live shows for all the different sports.
Right.
Basket, NBA, which obviously I don't do, NHL, which I try not to do because it's too early in the morning. Yes, I'm very much a fan of First 5 Plays.
So Mark asked, we talked run lines earlier. Are you a fan of First 5 Plays? Why are you a fan of that?
Because much of my handicapping is on starting pitching. So if it's on starting pitching, what do I want the full 9 innings for? I don't have to worry about bullpens. Starting pitchers go 6 innings for the most part, even though we've had 2 complete games the last 2 days by Lance Lynn, who's a machine, and Musgrove. And I think, Cueto had a chance to go 9, but they took him out of the 9th inning.
Hey, by the way, what'd you think of that? That this early in the season, off of all the arm trouble, Cueto was pitching brilliantly, but he got pushed to 118 pitches.
Yeah. He's apparently healthy again.
Yeah.
And the Giants trying to win games and don't trust their bullpen very much.
He is I forget who he threw the pitch against. He got a strikeout, maybe 6th or 7th inning. He's up there and he did like this weird triple pump hesitation.
Oh, he's got them all.
It's like freaking
It's like watching Louis Tion.
Yeah, exactly. He doesn't turn his back.
Oh, he does that too.
He today when he did it, he was on his right leg. It seemed like for an eternity, like holding in the air and shimmying. And the batter was like, "I got nothing." He threw an off-speed pitch, 80 miles an hour, and the guy was just like, just swang right through it.
He's that's talk about reinventing himself, because
Yeah.
Cueto was a power pitcher.
Yep.
And he can. Every time he looks like he's all done, he comes back to life again. He
Like
gets
freaking,
reincarnated.
What was it? Was it Orlando Hernandez with El Duque?
Yeah.
Yeah, he got super creative with the sidearm stuff
Yep.
and all the delay stuff and the.
Can you imagine if he'd spent his entire career in the majors?
Yep.
Because he arrived late, and from what we gather, he was just amazing when he was younger. We never saw the best of El Duque.
Yep.
His brother was pretty good too.
Brother was good, really good. Pitched well in big time moments.
Oh boy, did he ever! Levon, those guys. I often wondered why Orlando Hernandez didn't become he's so creative out there. You'd think he'd make a good pitching coach.
I don't know what he's doing now.
I don't either.
Masters. So you're you're in the running here. You're in decent.
I got two guys, Morikawa and Smith. Smith, geez, oh boy, God, he did not have a good finish to the round today because he might have actually been the leader going into Saturday, but gave back 3 strokes late. But he's 2 under, and Morikawa's 2 under. Anything even par, you're in the tournament. 7 strokes behind is not enormous, and there's not that many guys in between. So I think even par. You need to go out and play well on Saturday, obviously, but I think that's out there.
Yeah.
And it looks like it could be a great run to the weekend. I know a lot of big names missed the cut, but there's a lot of big names who are very much involved in this thing. And boy, Jordan Spieth, wouldn't this be something if after this horrific slump was like, is he done? Is he ever going to come back? Then he finally wins last week. He'd be knocking on the door for a few weeks. Wins last week, and he's got a real shot. He's the favorite now.
Yeah.
I saw the Jeff Sherman posted the Westgate odds, and he's actually the favorite. I think he's like, 4-1, 5-1, something like that.
I'll look it up. Is there any point in me betting DeChambeau?
He's
25.
live because he really closed with a rush today.
Yeah.
He looked like he wasn't going to make the cut. He was like 4 or 5 over, and then figured things out in the back 9. And he, look, he can cut down the distance on a lot of holes on this course. Jesus.
Yep.
The problem he was having was, and Andy North actually mentioned this, is that sometimes it looks like because he's swinging so hard off the tee that he's having some problems with his distance judgment on his irons because he's not able to take it down a little bit.
Right.
But I mean, the back 9 today, he was like 4 or 5 under on the back 9. So he's back in it. Fitzpatrick, I don't know. It's tough to win. He hasn't won yet over here, has he? I don't think he's won a tournament stateside. It's tough to win your first there. The guy who worries me is Will Zalatoris, who I've bet at least 4 or 5 times to win outright and hasn't gotten there yet. And it's like, well, I'll leave him alone this week. He's like 150 to 1, and he's 1 stroke off the lead. If he wins, I'm going to be sick.
After all the time he's tried and trying forever.
Well, I've been trying him in tournaments that are a little lesser.
Yeah.
Because that's usually where guys break through. And he's been contending, but not getting there. But I thought this is one, and I still think it's one where a big name's going to end up winning it. I think there's enough big names in the hunt so that I think Justin Rose will get caught. And I mean, if I had to pick somebody right now, I think I'd pick Spieth, but I'll ride with my 2 guys. And listen, if Morikawa is in the hunt on Sunday, watch out because he's already established that he can close.
It's 35 to 1 at William Hill.
Who is?
Morikawa.
Yeah, that's about what I got him at before the tournament. So
Yeah. Speed's 4, Rose is 450, Justin Thomas is 5.
and Justin Thomas is very much a threat.
Yep.
I think I'd pick him. If you give me the field at level, I think I'd go with JT.
Let's close on some food. You try anything new this week? Any new restaurants, or you go with the staples?
No, I don't think I tried anything new this week.
Yeah.
Mostly normal stuff. I laid in a new supply of iced tea, though. The new one is, what is this? Pure Leaf, caffeine-free.
Yeah.
Cherry hibiscus. It's very good.
Oh boy, look at you. Are you
Becoming more of an iced tea drink, or more of a tea drinker as I get older?
You got the first shot for the vaccine?
Yes. Second one is, I think the 21st, 22nd, something like that.
Did you get beat up? The first one, no, it was good.
Nothing. I was a little tired the next day, but
Yeah.
I don't care about that. That's fine. So I'll sleep a little more. And the second one I'll get, and I don't expect much to happen there either.
And then what? You start going out more?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I've been very reluctant to go out over the past year.
I don't blame you.
Well,
It's
I
pretty
don't-
risky. And you're not a young guy, nor am I.
No, I'm in good health too, but I just it's like I don't need this.
Yep.
Because I don't know if it has any lasting effects, and
Yep.
so it's like okay, I'll stay in. You're not as daring when you get older. If I was in my 20s, I wouldn't have cared.
Right.
Like, I'm going out. All right, I'll put a mask on, but I'm going out. But 28 is different from 68.
Yep.
Big difference.
I get my second tomorrow.
Ah.
So we'll see how that goes. The second's supposed to hit you. Sometimes it hits you. So we'll see what happens. Who was asking? We can close out on this one. Oh, RJJ was saying, you like anything for baseball tomorrow?
I haven't finished yet.
My God.
So
How do you ever play with the lack of run support he gets and the shakiness of kind of the middle of that pen? How does anyone play Jacob DeGrom at 290?
yeah, and listen, he's the Rogers kid for Miami. He's not bad.
Yep.
He's not bad. So he could be looking at another low-scoring game where he's got to hope the bullpen does its job late. Good news for the Mets is Edwin Diaz looks like he's back to being a solid pitcher again.
That was ridiculous.
That's really big for them.
Oh, of course. He's a freaking stud.
Yep. And he was terrible 2 years ago. Just awful. It was like, what the hell happened to him? He fell off. It's just like he lost his confidence. He couldn't close a game. But he started looking good again in the short season, and he's bringing it. He's bringing it like he did in Seattle now. That's really big for the Mets. That division's going to be fun. I think the Mets might have the best team, though.
Really?
Yeah.
Better than the Braves.
Yeah, it's possible.
If Morton pitched well today. If Morton's a hammer and Ian Anderson turns out to be an impact guy.
Well, Ian Anderson's got a match what he did last year. And sometimes it's not as easy second time around. Got to get Soroka healthy.
Yeah.
Who's, but no, the Braves are right there, but they've won the division, 3 in a row? So they're the team to beat, but the Mets are good. And if Syndergaard gets back at some point this season and is over the arm problems.
Yeah.
Ooh. Stroman looks like he's going to fit. Stroman looks like he's a New York guy. It's a good fit for him. That's where he's from.
Yeah.
And I think that he's one of those guys who's going to maybe thrive in his backyard. He's not an ace, but I think he's going to be a more consistent middle of the rotation starter than he was in other locations. I think he really is excited to be back home. Sometimes when you get a chance to go home, it's kind of fun.
And being a New York guy, if you can handle New York, is a good thing.
He grew up there.
There are a lot of guys who can't do it.
But the one thing I'll say is the guys who grew up there probably have a better chance of doing it than guys who grew up in Idaho or something like that.
Right.
It's a whole different ball game for them.
Yeah.
But Mark Stroman's been there his whole life.
They down the stretch of his career, they tortured John Franco.
Oh.
But he survived. He's a New York guy.
And he was almost a Hall of Famer.
Right.
He got old. What are you going to do?
Yep.
But there's a lot of guys who've gone through New York and just couldn't handle it at all.
So many guys. I mean, Steve Trout, one of the worst. Jesus Christ. Terry Mulholland. So many Yankees, too.
Boston, same thing in Boston.
Yep.
It is a harsh spotlight. By the way, Paxton, did you see Paxton?
Yep.
Goes back out to Seattle, and it's like, well, you know what? This is a better fit for him. He might flourish once again.
Unreal.
One start, Tommy John.
Oh, I
Bye.
didn't see PJ. Oh, no.
Tommy John.
God almighty. That's the last thing they need to. They are
that poor team. Jesus.
Jesus.
They need Edgar Martinez and Ken Griffey to come out of retirement.
Right. Yeah, and actually,
That's about it.
they can still play compared to some of the guys they have now, but they cannot put together a pitching staff.
Yeah, they don't hit much either.
And then they have they have an all-timer, and the guy doesn't make it past 29 years old, and King Felix.
Yep.
So crazy.
Yeah, it's too bad. It's a great sports town,
Yeah.
but the Mariners have been bad for a while now, and they're not lucky either.
Nope.
But they made a lot of bad decisions, and you keep on making bad decisions. These things happen. I mean, and that's become kind of their legacy. Is if there's a wrong way to do it, they'll figure it out.
All right, Dave. Good job. Appreciate it. I will. I'll talk to you soon too. I got to get in contact with you about something. But fun times tonight. Have a good weekend. Be safe, everybody who watched all week. We appreciate it. Have a good weekend. See you, RJJ. See you, Mark. Later. Oh, Brady just came in. Come on, Brady. You know we start at 10:30. I think Brady's a little bitter from I yelled at him today as our podcast producer. You got it. Come on. Get it together mentally over the weekend, Brady. Please.